What's up? It's your boy JB Rambo coming to you with another show. Thank you for joining me this evening. If you get a chance, please hit the like button and subscribe to the show and leave a comment for anything that you guys like. That's my little intro music. I got to change that up. Uh, Unfortunately, I haven't figured out how to use all my gadgets and stuff. Anyhow, I'm back with you for another reaction video. Unfortunately, I can't hear myself in my earphones, although it should be recording. But today we're going to be looking at uh, a short clip by Patrick Bet David, one of my favorites podcasters. I have a lot of respect for this guy. Does a lot of good work. And in this short clip, he's sitting in his car. We're going to talk about in a second. It's about the difficulties of starting a business, as you could tell from the title, the most difficult phase of a business. I'm not sure what he's going to say, but I think probably the most difficult phase of a business, because I have a couple that are not doing all that great because they're just starting out. But I think the biggest struggle that I've had a business now, legal doc guy for 2 years, where I filed taxes 2 years already, so probably a little over 2 years. I just started PJ and Pop's Auto Detailing, which is a new business that I have doing auto detailing. And what I could tell you, and then having had many failed businesses in the past, I could tell you one of the most difficult parts about having a business for me has been just getting started. Let's get into the video, and I'm sure I'll have plenty to add to this, but I did watch a couple of minutes of this, and I get the gist of where he's going with this. So let's check it out.
But you feel like you're all by yourself. Let me explain something to you. I'm in my car right now. Obviously, no one is sitting next to me. No one's behind me. The only thing I got is this light here. If I close this, it's off. If I open this, it's on. I'm on myself. There's only one person I can talk to here. So what does this mean? Here's what it means. The first couple years of your business, you are going to get to a moment where this happens to you. You can't call your wife. You can't call your husband, boyfriend, girlfriend. You know why? Because you told them you have big dreams and ambitions, and they believed you, and they said, go for it. You can't call your friends.
Hey, well, that's really nice for him. I could tell you one thing for certain. Anytime I started a business, that was not the reaction I got from family. Yeah, go for it. Start a business, man. You're going to do great. I really know you can do it. None of that. I've always had to toe the line. Oh, man, like my mom, for instance, always wanted me to be a lawyer. That's one of the biggest reasons why I went to law school. And, they just want you to get that job, that safe, cushy, high-paying job. I mean, no entrepreneurial spirit whatsoever.
Because you told your friends you got big plans. You cannot call your peers. You cannot call anybody, not your parents, because you told your parents, I don't want to go to college and become a lawyer. I don't want
to. That's me. Anytime I've ever brought that up to anybody, a girlfriend or my mom, wife, it's like, no one's trying to hear that you don't want to finish, getting your license to practice law. One of the things I dread the most is like, for example, I'm taking the bar exam in July and I'm studying for that. And one of my biggest dreads has always been, man, what if I actually pass? I'm going to have to practice law. And that's what I do now. And I don't practice law, but I do all the lawyer work as a law clerk. I don't do the hearings, but I have to do all the writing. And man, I hate it. I'm literally trying to do anything I can to get out of that. But yeah, people don't generally want to hear that. You don't want to be the doctor or the lawyer and stuff like that. They want you to go all the way through.
to pursue and become that engineer. I want to go become a businessman, a salesperson, or an entrepreneur. And then all of a sudden, you find yourself in a car like this all by yourself, talking to only one person, and it's you. And what do you do at this point? I've been in these types of situations many, many times. So you sit together by yourself. I'd go on appointments, 2-hour drive, 3-hour drive. I'm knocking on the door of the person to sell something that I want to make $1,500, that I need that $1,500 to make my car payment, my cell phone payment, and pay off my credit card for that month. And I'm knocking on the door. I see the drape moving. They don't open the door for me.
Yeah, that's tough, especially when you're counting on that money. I'm experiencing this right now. So one thing I was prepared for, because having started a business before, is all the expenses that you're going to have up front. So I just started this auto detailing business. I really want to get it off the ground because, you know, I don't want to be the 9-to-5 guy in the office anymore. So all month I've been, you know, I registered an LLC. I got me a domain name. I created an email address for my website. I don't have a website yet, but I purchased a software that's going to help me create the website. The website's on the software. I mean, you're talking hundreds and hundreds. I mean, I spent thousands of dollars already trying to get this auto detailing business off the ground. And I had to like get in with a marketing company because I don't know the first thing about marketing. I know how to make commercials and like, you know, film myself and do a little bit of editing, but like, how do I get it out there? How do I get it out on Google? I created myself a Google account today, Google PJ and Pops Auto Detailing. So if you go, you know, if you want to do me a favor, see if you can search it. I could put it up right now, but I want to stay focused on the video because this is not really about my business. This is about the struggles of starting a business and how a lot of people will start a business and the majority of people who start a business are going to fail. It's very difficult to keep it going. And I think it really comes down to who you are as a person. You know, you could have all the finest gadgets. You know, I went out there and I bought all the finest equipment. I mean, I got an air compressor. I got the hot water extractor. I got the steamer. I bought me a 400-watt generator. Bought me brushes and chemicals and things that I need. I mean, who knows what I got there? But it doesn't matter. Having all that great equipment, it doesn't really matter if you can't get the customers. And once you get the customers, if you don't go out there and do a good job. I was listening to something today earlier where it's talking about, you know, just, continuously repeating a certain action. For example, with this detailing business, I got to get out there and I got to like detail a car, even if it's just the seat. You know, yesterday I didn't have enough time to do a whole car. So I just did the seat of my car, one seat, not all the seats, but just one seat. And I was just learning how to use my equipment because all that equipment is pretty intimidating. It's like learning a new job. Like I'm literally learning this new career and I'm heavily invested and I got a lot of money in this and I got a lot of time into it already, like a month of time. I got nowhere to go but crashing down. I could crash and lose my whole investment. And I could just like develop a bad habit of watching TV and just say the screw with it. But that would be crazy. That would be nuts. If you're going to be successful at a business and, you know, don't take my advice because, you know, all I can really tell you is just the getting started part is you got to put one foot in front of the other. So I know for a fact that as long as I just inch by inch, just like with everything else, just like I did with law school, just like I did with this podcast, same thing, invested thousands of dollars into it. I have had this thing for 5 years and, you know, I got some momentum going at one point and I dropped off and now here I am back again. If you've ever not started a business and you've always thought about starting a business, there's something about it, man. Like I'm gung-ho about quitting my job. I don't want to be a law clerk sitting at a desk, driving an hour and a half to work, sitting there doing writing papers. Imagine being in school and you're writing reports, like you're doing a 3-page report every single day. But me, I got to do like 10 of them, 5 of them. You know, it's horrible. Anyway, I'm rambling now. Let's go on here and see.
And I drove 2.5 hours in traffic. I said, I see you. They're not opening the door. Sir, I see you. Not opening the door. I'm calling. They're not picking up. They're pressing again. I call again. They're pressing again. What do you do in that moment? What do you do in that moment? You know what I'm talking about. What do you do in that moment? What do you do when you go on all these sales calls or you do all these other things? You prepared a proposal. You put so much time into it. Like, oh my gosh, this is going to make me $5,000. This is going to make me $2,500 or $10,000. And it doesn't go your way. Then after that appointment or the meeting or all day of making calls, sending emails, anything you do all day, there's going to come a time you get in your car and you're by yourself. What are you telling yourself when you're in a car by yourself? Here's what it sounds like. Is this even going to work for me? Is this even worth it? Why am I doing this? Why am I putting my body through this? What is this all about? Why not just go get a regular job and just have a peaceful life? I mean, what is really a big deal about having all the money anyways? Most people who have money are miserable.
Oh man, I've had that conversation in my head hundreds of times. The self-doubt creeps into your mind as soon as you get to a certain point in your business. And that point usually starts about right after, like, going to the store and buying your equipment, or, buying your setup, getting the business cards. Oh, that's the easy part. That's the easy stuff. It's the going out there and getting the rejection, going out there and actually, getting the experience. That's the part where you're just like, man, that really messes with you. And then you start thinking to yourself, man, I don't know if I'm actually capable of doing this. And as I've gotten older and, more comfortable with who I am, and, being able to come onto a podcast and have my face up on the screen and all that kind of stuff, you start to get over certain fears, and you start to recognize certain patterns with yourself. Okay, I got all the equipment right here. Now it's time to actually mobile detail a car, or whatever your business is. I've seen people who have started businesses and it looks like they're doing good. Like, we're in America with the digital age, with websites and internet. It's never been easier. It's never been easier to get out there and start a business. I know a guy from the gym who started a rash guard business, and I see him doing his thing online. Shout out to Adrian. It's Jiu-Jitsu Dads, I believe it is. I should look that up. Make sure I get that right. But he's got really cool rash guards. Next time I do an episode, I'll make sure I give him a proper shout out. But you can see that he's doing the marketing and stuff. But the point is that your head will mess with you. It's the self-doubt that keeps you from achieving whatever your dream is. I have a dream to quit the 9 to 5, be able to do something cool, like clean people's cars. I'm hoping to do, like, one day get to doing Ferraris and Escalades, and, people who, do really well for themselves. And you never know who you're going to meet. There's millions of cars out there, millions of them. I only need 30 a month, 30 of regular clients to be making $10,000, $20,000 a month right now. And right now I got 0, but the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. One of my favorite quotes. Don't know who said it, but it's not my original quote. Obviously, everybody's probably heard that, but it just makes perfect sense. Getting to $20,000 a month or $10,000 a month is like a journey of 1,000 miles. But if your attitude is just like, man, there's no other way that I'm going to go than on that journey, not getting sidetracked by other stuff. Like, you're 100% dedicated to that, and you just go step by step, inch by inch if you have to. Like, you can't fail. Like, if you just keep going, you can't fail. I have this other business, Legal Doc guy. It's doing lawyer stuff, and I just hate that stuff. I hate it. It's boring. Plus, I don't want to be helping people divorce their wives or husbands. Mostly it's wives divorcing their husbands. I like helping people child modification, getting custody of the kids. I like doing that stuff. But something about just sitting down and doing paperwork, I just hate it. I'd rather be doing something physical. I would rather be lifting boulders and throwing boulders from one spot to another than sitting at a desk, like I do every single day. It's horrible. Anyway, sidetracked again. Let's keep going.
Anyways, who cares about making millions? Who cares about traveling the world? Who cares about any of this stuff? Why do I care about having a Ferrari? I don't need to buy a Ferrari anyways, pay more money, pay more tax, have a big rest. I don't care. Why do I need to have a legacy? Who cares about having a big legacy? Why do I need to do that stuff? Why? Who am I trying to prove a point to? Why am I trying to prove a point that I got this? In those moments is whether you win or you lose because of what you tell yourself, because it's here where you become your own ally. I remember I would sit and
well, not only that, but your kids are watching. If you have kids, they're watching you. Yeah, legacy, I think, is important. Building something, watch your kids watching you build something. or your buddies, friends, or younger people, I think it's super important to like there's people that I've watched build businesses that have inspired me. They wouldn't even know it, but I know people who've started businesses. I've seen them go from very small to very big, and you're just like, man, like that dude built that business from scratch, and he's doing so successful, and that inspired me to be like, holy crap, this guy's younger than me. I better get on my A game, right? I could think of a few guys like that, younger than me and doing amazing stuff. Have a life that I wouldn't mind having, you know. And it's really important not to compare yourself to other people. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is just that people, especially if you have kids, are watching, and you never know who you're going to inspire to do something like this podcast I have going on. I'll have no doubt that there's at least one person who has seen one of my podcasts that thought, man, if that bonehead could do this, I should be doing this too. Wouldn't be surprised, you know? Let's keep it going here.
Appointment, I would go to an appointment, wouldn't work in. I come to my car and I would sit back and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I would close my eyes and I would visualize what this life is going to look like. And I would have to shut my eyes to believe in the dream that I have. And my visualization would go. Imagine a conversation you're having with your dad, with your mom, with your family. Imagine those moments where they say you're proud of you. They're proud of you. Imagine you're looking at yourself in the mirror. You're so proud of yourself. You're seeing your kids one day, private school, traveling together. You got great relationships. They want to be around you. They enjoy your company. Then later on, grandkids.
Dude, that's huge. I visualize like this on a regular basis, especially when I go to sleep at night. If I'm not listening to my earphones, if I allow myself some quietness, I'll literally sit there and like night dream. I think about, visualize like the life that I want. And it's not cars or houses. Oh, it can be that. The house, especially. Cars, I don't really care. Cars have never been my thing. But like having a house for my, that I could live with with my daughter, my kids, have all my kids can have a room, and or being able to take my kids to a fancy restaurant and be sitting there at the head of the table with my children, and may God willing grandkids someday, where they don't have to worry about nothing. I could catch the bill, and that things like that, like being able to visualize what you want for yourself. For some people, it might be that fancy car or that house with a pool, picket fence, all that stuff. All that stuff is really important to visualize in your mind, because you got to make it clear what it is that you're aiming for. And you got to have stages. I'll give you an example of a stage I have. So all this stuff, the auto detailing, the podcast, the legal doc guy, the coaching with jiu-jitsu, the 9-to-5 job that I have as a law clerk, all that stuff is a means to an end. And it's all to get me into generating streams of income that I could then throw into real estate property. I want to own small residential properties, like fourplexes, where I could rent those properties out and replace my income, get it to where I don't even have to work anymore. I could just podcast for fun, right? I do just podcast for fun. I don't make any money doing podcasting, but the coaching or the job or the legal doc or the auto detailing, that's all for streams of income. And that's not even where it ends right there. I mean, it's going to be, I'm going to be coming out with rash guards pretty soon. I got a really cool idea for gis and rash guards. Be coming out with that. But you got to be like, this stuff takes a lot of your time. It's not where you got to have like nothing else going on in your life. Obviously, you make time for your friends and stuff, but when it comes to being an entrepreneur, which I do consider myself, even though, I'm not successful by any means, but it all depends on what you define as success. And I'm talking about financial success. So I have none of that. But all that stuff, all the things that I'm doing has a purpose. It's all to get me to where I want to go, which is real estate investment. What's the point of real estate investments? Because real estate investment is the best thing you can do to produce wealth. Land ownership, property owners, having people paying you rent, businesses, all that kind of stuff. All this stuff is, you're looking for passive income. Crypto, I got a small amount of crypto, nothing significant. But as a man, you got to be thinking about all this kind of stuff. Because if you're like me, and I think that most men are like this, you want to have a family, like a wife and kids and all that kind of stuff, especially you young guys who don't have no kids and you don't have a wife yet, you're going to want that stuff. And you're going to want to have something of value. So that way, when you meet a woman, you're going to be like, hey, my life looks pretty good, I hope. Or would you like to share it with me? That's critical. Like, you don't want to, if you could learn from my mistakes, it would be not having your stuff together, having no money, no income, no house, having never built a nest egg, having never built anything, and then try to create a family with nothing. Like, that's crazy. That's impossible. It doesn't work. And, you want to make sure that you have something of value to bring to the table, that where a wife and kids would complement your life. That it's going to complement all that you've built. Personally, I think that young men in their, from teens all the way up until you're 30 should be all about wealth building. Women should be a secondary thing, in your life. It should be like way down the list of priorities. I made chasing girls the top of my list when I was growing up. And all that got me was I remained in poverty. I remained a low status man because I never bothered I was never ambitious. Women and dating, all that came easy to me. You see my beautiful face that you have here, although it's getting older. When I was in my 20s, I was quite a handsome guy, and I never really thought that I was going to need money for anything. But that was all wrong. And that's where we get into another episode of a lack of male role models and accountability for young people. I've had to take accountability for that type of stuff now in my late 40s, which is now I'm trying to play catch up, where I may have done some real damage to myself, because one day I'm going to be 50 real soon. I'm going to be 50 and I'm way behind. I don't know about you, but things are getting a lot more expensive. Food is getting crazy expensive. Rents and mortgages are getting expensive. Everything's getting more expensive. Entertainment's getting more expensive. It's a horrible time for anybody who's trying to, to maintain your quality of life. So it's crazy critical that we focus on what it is that we're doing to generate wealth, revenue, money coming in, wherever you can find it, wherever you can get it, and then practice strategies. One strategy I've been practicing right now is saving 20% of my income into my savings account. And slowly but surely, as long as I don't touch that, over time, that's going to build. It's building slowly, where I don't feel like a broke ass. Now, if I went out and I started dating and I started going out with girls and stuff like that, guaranteed, my savings account will dwindle, because I'll be faking the funk. I'd be trying to like impress some girl and, squandering money, and that's just pointless. That's stupid. Shouldn't do that. So anyway, we got off topic here again. He's almost.
And you've done such a good job, and the legacy. They're so proud of their last names. You've made the money where you can go on the family times to get. If something happens to them, you got the resources. I would go, and I would be in this dream of mine. And every single time I got to that point, rather than dwelling and asking those questions, I would go and dream. Every time I did that, you know what it was like? It was like going to Chevron gas station, like going to Shell, like going to Arco. Even Arco doesn't take credit cards. It's like going to those places.
They do now.
And you would dream, and you refueled, and then you go back up again. But the challenge is most people, when they hit these moments, they don't go to the gas station. Unfortunately, when they get to these moments, they get too logical. And when they get too logical, guess what ends up happening? They make logical decisions, not emotional decisions, thinking about their bigger dreams. And when they make the logical decisions, they all of a sudden quit and they go away and they go back and they retract to what they were doing before. And maybe around everybody, people could say you made the right decision. For the rest of your life, there's only one person who's going to do that you quit. You know who that one person is?
Yeah, it's you. There's nothing worse than the feeling of knowing that you quit something. It's a horrible feeling, and I know many of you guys have felt that out there. You know, one thing that I've learned and that I take very seriously is you have to stay laser focused. Let me change this right here. See, I'm learning. I'm learning like how to deal with the software. This is only my second reaction video. I'm learning how to do all these things in my life. I keep bringing up the auto detailing and all that in the podcast and stuff in my other businesses because those things take time to learn. The auto detailing, like, it's not like I just learn overnight. It's not going to take me long to learn. But if you're not focused, laser focused on whatever it is you're trying to achieve, whatever's pulling your attention away from you, I mean, if your attention is constantly being taken to the side of what you're actually trying to accomplish, it's going to take you so much longer, if at all, if you ever get it done. It's one of those things where I tell myself, man, you gotta put obviously, you know, date. If you're trying to build a business and you're not married or anything, you should be dating. You shouldn't be doing anything. I mean, you gotta give up everything, sacrifice a lot to build a business because it's gonna take, especially if you're doing multiple businesses at one time, it's gonna take all your time. The only thing I'm not willing to sacrifice is obviously, you know, the time with my 10-year-old child who needs me. But there's solutions for that too. You involve them in the things you're doing. You know, I involved her. It's called PJ and Pop's Auto Detailing for a reason, because she can come and help me. You know, she could use the machine and help me clean, or she could have the little brush detailing the console and the center console and all that stuff, or the dashboard. There's things that she can do to help me as I'm detailing a car. She can participate, helping me. Sometimes I've had her edit my shorts on YouTube or on Instagram and stuff like that. She'll do the editing, and she likes to put, you know, Paulina J, edited by Paulina J, and she'll do that. I think the point I'm trying to convey here is that if you want a business and you want it to take off, and this is advice I'm giving to myself, obviously, it's going to take all your attention. And if something takes all your attention, that means everything else goes to the wayside. Because I'd be really surprised if somebody can build a business that, like for example, I'm talking about building my auto detailing business to $10,000 to $20,000 a month. $10,000 to $20,000 a month. And I'm developing a plan to have that going in 3 to 6 months, $10,000 a month, so that I can get my income to a level where a bank will give me a loan for a house, not a house to live in, but a fourplex, right? Like, that's going to take all my time and attention. There's no room for anything else. Like, could you imagine? Like, this has happened to me before where, you know, I'm starting a business or I'm trying to, you know, up myself, and then I end up start dating a girl. And then the next thing you know, all your attention is going to that girl. Because in the beginning, she accepts you the way you are for that first couple of months. Oh, you're a drinker. Oh, you do this. Oh, you do that. Oh, you're so cute, blah, blah, blah. And you know, they overlook a lot in the beginning because they're attracted to you. And they see something in you that you probably don't even see in yourself. Or they're delusional and they see something that isn't really there. And then after a short time, that wears out. And then when the relationship ends, you're right back to where you started. And believe me, women will get you to change your plans. They're going to look for something more stable. But when you're starting a business, it ain't stable. You're going to be making sacrifices. If you don't have like someone to fall back on, like, like right now I'm living rent free at my mom's house while I build all these businesses. And so if you don't have that, you're going to be, you don't have any safety nets, something to fall back on. So every moment counts. Every deal counts. Every client counts. It's all counts. So you can't divide your attention between other people, friends. Your friends want to go party. They want to they want to go hang out, go to the club. Right now it's 11 o'clock at night. It's a Monday, but this is exactly where I was on Friday and Saturday night last week, right here in my studio, figuring out what I was going to do next week, because there is no time to waste. There is no time. There's only so much time. People, we live our lives as if we have all this time to spare, as if time is growing on trees, and it's not. It's finite. We only got so much of it. I mean, I'm 46 years old and it flew by in a breeze. It's just gone. All those years gone, wasted. 25 years plus of just being a waster and not making good decisions, starting businesses and then failing businesses. And granted, they say, your first few businesses fail, but man, I'm on my like 10th business or something like that of trying to get something off the ground. And granted, I think I'm doing pretty well. I'm focused, 100% focused, laser focused on what I'm doing. And I guess I'm just trying to encourage myself and encourage you guys, if you're watching, or maybe someone watches this in a future date that might realize, hey, if I really want to have the successful business, you better get your priorities straight. And you better be willing to sacrifice anything or anyone to make your goals happen. Because it will require so much of you. It requires everything you got. And you got to be willing to give that.
And gradually a little bit of bitterness may enter your body because you're upset you quit. So your fuse is a little shorter. You're a little bit more upset. People are wondering why. No one knows why. Your wife asks you, what's on your mind? Sometimes I don't know what you're thinking. I say, I'm not thinking about nothing. Yeah, you are. I know you're thinking. I'm not thinking nothing. You leave me alone. I'm not thinking nothing right now. Babe, I've been married to you for 6 years. You're thinking about something. What is the matter with you? Leave me alone. What's on your mind, babe?
But you don't tell her anyway. Here, a little word of advice for you guys. Don't ever tell your wife or your girlfriend about your troubles, especially when it comes to financial troubles or any kind of trouble. Because one, they're looking for security. It's natural and innate in a woman to see you as a protector and provider. If you start saying things that you're showing self-doubt, you're undermining her perception of you and how she sees you as a provider and a protector. If you start telling her, oh man, I don't think I'm going to make it at this job, or, I'm not making any money. I'm worried that we don't have enough money. All you're doing is just putting fear into her. And, if I were her, I'd start maybe thinking about, maybe I better start looking at some other man to provide and protect. And secondly, she's not the right person. I mean, personally, I think I suppose there's two schools of thought. I'm going to confide in my problems to my wife or girlfriend, which I think is a big mistake. Or you could look to your mentors or your guy friends, business partners, other people to talk about these things. A friend, a man from church, but not your wife, not your girlfriend. That's a huge mistake. Not only that, but they could use those things against you in the future. Just don't do it. It's not a good idea.
No one's going to know. You are going to know. So what's the moral of the story here with this video? Next time you're by yourself in a car, no one else is around, things not going your way, you got to find a way to hype yourself up. You got to find your way to focus on the vision. You got to find your way to find a way to remind yourself of the dream and refuel yourself, or else you're eventually going to go around, be around all the crowd. But once you're around all the crowd, you're going backwards.
Yeah, 100%. You got to psych yourself up. Every single day, I got to have a talk with myself about what am I going to do that day. I got to pump myself up that I'm capable, that nothing's going to stop me. Like the fear of failure is scary. It wasn't scary in my 20s because I'm 20. It wasn't too scary in my 30s, but man, I'm in my late 40s, approaching my 50s. You better believe failure is no option. It is just not an option. I'd rather take a bullet to my mouth, put a bullet in my mouth than fail at these businesses, at this podcast, at my new businesses. I'm willing to let go of the job because I don't want to work for another human being. I want to work for myself. But man, you got to talk yourself into success. You got to convince yourself. You know, uh, there's been people in my life who have told me, you got to stop that self-doubt talk. Like, especially when it comes to like my weight, I'm like, you're a fat piece. I'll say, I'm a fat piece of shit, and you think it's harmless, but it's harmful. It's not harmless. It's self-defeating language. They call it a self-defeating prophecy or something like that, where you're bringing your word, you'll bring those words into life. These days, I try to look in the mirror and I tell myself I'm the baddest motherfucker out there. I'm not monetizing anything, so I don't know if I get in trouble for cussing, but looks like I muted myself. But I will talk to myself in everything I do. Jiu-jitsu, I always notice that when I have a good attitude going in to class or to open mat, and I just feel like I'm going to kick ass, I do. And when I feel like I don't feel good, and I start talking to myself, I feel like that piece of shit. And then I do horrible, you know? So super important how you talk to yourself, guys.
Because to get to the next crowd, you kind of got to graduate this company. Because the reality is, now that you make it, you have so many people around you that think like you, support you, help you. They bought into the vision. They have respect for you because they've seen the toughness that you have, because they've seen you're somebody to follow, you're somebody to team up with, you're a running mate type of a person. Then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I thought I was all by myself. Where'd all these people show up? Well, that's because you never quit.
Yeah. Yeah. You one of the things I did with this auto detailing thing is I bought this software, and as part of the package, it costs more, but I decided to go for it because they have like a online community that you get access to all the people on there. You could ask questions about how to build the business or about how to perform certain jobs. How do you clean seats this way, or how do you do this, how do you do that, or how do you build a business? Having that community there, people like a support network who obviously, if it's all about auto detailing, there's going to be, I think there's like 90 guys in it. There's going to be 90 dudes that are all about the thing you're doing. We're all working towards the same goal. We don't all live in the cities all over the country. And there's only like 90 dudes on this thing. And we're all trying to accomplish the same goal of building an automotive detailing business. And I mean, we're talking guys that are making like 20 grand a month. And by having that support, having places to turn people to turn to when you have questions, doesn't matter what industry you're in or what it is you're doing, like that's huge. I mean, it's priceless.
So, message is very simple. Whatever you're doing, if you're in a situation like this, you are not alone. Many other people have been in situations like this. It's almost mandatory to get to the next level, except they won in these moments. And I challenge you to do the same as well.
Yeah. I love Patrick Bet-David, man. This dude. I remember the first time I saw one of his he did this reel where he had this great music. Maybe I'll find it someday and show it. But it was baller, man. Like it shows him being a scrub, you know, working day in and day out, getting rejected day in and day out, persevering, and then till the one day he just makes it, and then the guy who told him no 100 times is now let him in, and I imagine he makes the deal or the sale, and he's next thing you know he's driving the Ferrari, and the Ferrari is just a symbol of his hard work. That's all it really is, and I'm sure it's more than that. But in that video, it's just like it just says, "Hey, he found success." And I know every man wants that. Every man wants to be successful. I can't imagine a guy who didn't want to improve himself, take himself to the next level in all areas of life, not just financially, but with your family or with your with your whatever it is you do. You want to be the guy. It's interesting. This is just a 6.5 minute video, but it took me 41 minutes to talk about it. So I must have talked a lot. But that's why we're here. That's why I call it a reaction video. This is my second video doing reaction videos. If you have a video you want me to comment on, you can send that to Dre B Rambo Show at yahoo.com. I think I have a couple. Here, I'll check it for you real quick. You can send me things like so it's Dre B Rambo Show at yahoo.com. You can send me, clips, video clips, articles, whatever you want, or advice. You could send comment on the show down below. You can even send me an email if you have like constructive criticism about my show. I'm more than willing to learn from anybody out there. Any kind of encouragement will do. I'm going to be doing a giveaway for some kickboxing Thai pads. On tomorrow's episode, I'll show them on screen so you can see them. Doing like a giveaway. I haven't quite figured out yet, how I'm going to do that or how I'm going to promote that. Also, I'm going to be setting it up so that people can call on the show, because I have the capabilities to do online telephone calls. If people want to call on the show, have questions, maybe need relationship advice or business advice, which I'm not really a business guru or anything, but I'm not a complete bonehead. Or just want to shoot the shit, you'll be able to call into the show during certain times of the night. Generally, I'm shooting the show, I think, at 10 at night. That's what I've been doing. It's a late show. It's not a live show. Not yet, anyway, because I'm still practicing. So that's one thing I was talking about. When you're starting something, a business or a new thing, it's going to take practice. When I was in law school, I had this professor, Professor Sanchez, who had a quote. It was a modification of practice makes perfect, but he would say practice makes permanent. And that's something that I always stuck with me, is practicing, being willing to look, silly. When I teach jujitsu, one thing I like to tell students, let me get rid of him there. One thing I'll tell my students is, lots of stuff, but I forgot what it was. But one thing we talked about is drillers make killers. Constantly drilling, so that way you can practice and become better. Oh, I remember what it was. One thing I tell my students all the time is, when you're learning jujitsu, and this applies to everything, when you're learning jujitsu, at first, lots of times, when especially people they're not athletic or have much athleticism, they're in this awkward phase of training. They're very awkward with it. I realized, oh man, not everybody's gonna just pick up the first time you show them something. When I was learning jujitsu, I pick it up right away. Like, oh, that's how you do it, okay. And I was, as a white belt, showing people, oh, he said you got to do it like this. And but many people, especially in anything, it doesn't matter what it is, you're in the awkward phase where you're gonna everything when you're doing something, it's gonna be awkward, and then you graduate to the mechanical phase where it's not awkward anymore, but you're still kind of mechanical, and then you get into the natural phase, or you call it whatever you want, expert phase, or the good. You it becomes natural, where it becomes second nature to you because you've done it so many reps, you've done it so many times that it just becomes second nature to you. So same thing with this podcast, for example, or the auto detailing. It's as long as I keep doing these shows every single day, you're gonna guarantee to see a difference in 1 month. If I did 30 shows between now and the next 30 days, and I did a show a night, 100% guaranteed. It's guaranteed. It's a law. I don't know if it's the law of physics, probably not that, but it's a law that if you practice something every single day, you're gonna see improvement. 100%. Same thing with law, with the study, studying the bar exam. If you practice essays or you practice MBEs and without fail, you're gonna get better. It's guaranteed. You just can't fail if you every single day practice at your craft. Um, so the point is just get past that awkward phase, get into that mechanical phase, and if you keep pushing and you persevere, you're gonna end up in that natural phase. So anyway, thank you for watching the show. Again, if you are able, please subscribe, like the channel, comment to help the algorithm uh, show my videos around. Talk about me with your friends. Tell your friends about me, and tune in to the Dre B. Rambo show. Oh, also, if you ever want to be a guest, hit me up. I'm down to have you on. If you have something interesting to talk about, you don't even really. If you have something you want to talk about, it doesn't even have to be interesting. I'd be more than happy to have you on as a guest, especially if you're starting a business or you're a fighter, or jiu-jitsu guy, whatever it is. Hit me up. I would love to have you on the show and get to know you and help the world get to know you. All right, guys. Thank you for watching the show. I hope you all good night.